Your anxious brain is literally lying to you right now. Not metaphorically, actually lying. The thoughts firing through your head when you're anxious aren't facts, they're guesses, and most of the time they're wildly inaccurate guesses your brain treats like gospel truth. That's the whole problem. And today we're fixing it. A thought record is the single most evidence-backed tool in cognitive behavioral therapy, and most people have never even heard of it, let alone used one correctly. It's basically a written interrogation of your own mind, and it works because anxiety hates being questioned out loud. Here's the thing, anxious thoughts feel true because they're fast. They hit you in under a second, they carry emotional weight, and your brain doesn't bother fact-checking them the way it would a news headline. A thought record slows that whole process down and forces your brain to actually do the math. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, has decades of research behind it, including over 400 controlled clinical trials showing it reduces anxiety symptoms in the majority of people who actually practice it. Not people who read about it. People who sit down and do the work with tools like this one. So what does a thought record actually look like? 7 columns. Situation, mood, automatic thought, evidence for, evidence against, balanced thought, and outcome. You work through each column in order, and by the end your brain has literally nowhere left to hide. Let's start with column 1, the situation. This is just the facts, no drama, no interpretation. What happened? When did it happen? Who was there? Think of it like a police report. Just the cold, boring, neutral facts of the moment before you started spiraling. Column 2 is your mood, and here's where most people rush past something huge. You don't just write anxious. You rate it, 0 to 100, and you name every single emotion present. Because sometimes what looks like anxiety is actually shame, or grief, or anger wearing anxiety's coat. But here's where it gets wild. Naming emotions with precision actually reduces their intensity in your nervous system. A 2007 UCLA study by Matthew Lieberman found that labeling emotions activates the prefrontal cortex and dials down the amygdala response. Putting words to feelings literally calms your brain down at a neurological level. Column 3 is your automatic thought, the exact sentence that ran through your head. Not a summary of it. The actual words. Something like they think I'm an idiot or I'm going to fail and everyone will find out. Specific, ugly, exactly as it sounded. Most people skip the specificity and that's why the whole thing falls apart. Vague thoughts can't be examined. You can't interrogate a fog. But my boss hates me because I stumbled over my words in that meeting. Now that's something we can actually work with and take apart piece by piece. Column 4 is evidence for the automatic thought, and yes, you have to actually fill this in. Don't skip it. Write down every real, factual piece of evidence that supports the thought. Not feelings, not interpretations, actual concrete observable facts you could put in front of a jury. Column 5 is evidence against the thought, and this is where the magic starts happening. How many times has that worst-case scenario actually come true? What are all the alternative explanations for what happened? What would a neutral third party who wasn't in your head actually see if they watched the situation back on video? Here's a number that'll stick with you. Research consistently shows that anxious people predict negative outcomes at roughly double the rate those outcomes actually occur. Your brain is filing catastrophe reports that are statistically wrong about 50% of the time, and you've been treating them like weather forecasts. But here's where it gets wild. Even when anxious predictions do come true, people rate the actual experience as far less terrible than they predicted. This is called the impact bias, and it means your brain is not just wrong about what will happen, it's also wrong about how bad it'll feel if it does. Column 6 is your balanced thought, and this is not forced positivity. Please don't write everything will be fine and people love me. That's not balanced, that's a lie in the other direction. A balanced thought sounds like there's a real chance this meeting went okay, and even if it didn't, I've handled embarrassment before and survived it. Balanced thoughts need to be believable to work. Your brain will reject a thought that feels fake, the same way it would reject a friend who responded to every problem with "just be positive." The goal is accuracy, not optimism. Accurate is almost always less terrifying than what anxiety told you. Column 7 is outcome. How do you feel after working through all 6 columns? Rate your original mood again, 0 to 100. For most people who fill this out completely and honestly, the intensity drops significantly, often by 30 to 50 points on that scale, not because the problem is gone but because it's been decatastrophized. Now, how often should you actually use this thing? When you're first learning CBT, therapists recommend doing a full written thought record at least 3 to 4 times a week, not just when you're in crisis. You're training a skill, same as anything else. You wouldn't practice guitar only when you're performing live. The written part matters more than people want to admit. Studies comparing written versus mental thought records show that physically writing engages more cognitive processing, slows down the automatic thought spiral, and creates a reference you can actually look back at. Your phone notes app absolutely counts. Paper counts more. Here's something that catches people off guard. The first few times you do a thought record, it might actually increase your distress temporarily. That's normal. You're shining a flashlight on thoughts you've been avoiding, and they look bigger up close before the questioning makes them smaller. Don't quit during that window. Common mistake number 1, filling in the evidence columns with more feelings instead of facts. I just know something bad is going to happen is not evidence. Neither is "it felt really awkward." You need observable, specific, verifiable facts, and the discipline of separating fact from feeling is literally the whole skill you're building. Common mistake number 2, skipping the ratings. The numbers feel unnecessary until you look back 3 weeks later and realize your baseline anxiety has dropped 15 points. Data beats memory every single time. Your brain will tell you nothing's changing. The numbers will tell you the truth. But here's where it gets wild. Thought records don't just reduce anxiety in the moment. Over time, they actually rewire habitual thinking patterns through neuroplasticity. You're creating new cognitive pathways, and eventually the balanced thought starts showing up automatically before the catastrophic one even gets a foothold. You're literally rebuilding the default settings. Let's talk about a real example. Someone gets a short, one-word reply from a friend and their brain immediately fires "they're mad at me, I did something wrong." Automatic thought identified. Evidence 4, the reply was unusually short. Evidence against, they said they were busy yesterday, they replied at all. One-word replies are normal from them on their phone. Balanced thought in that same scenario might be, there's a small chance I said something wrong, but much more likely they're just busy or tired. And if something was actually wrong, a real friend would tell me. Now rate the anxiety. It dropped. Not because the situation changed, but because the story your brain told about the situation changed. You can also do a simplified 3-column version when life is moving fast, just situation, hot thought, and balanced thought. It's less thorough but it keeps the habit alive on hard days. Think of the full 7-column version as the deep clean and the 3-column version as the daily wipe down. Both matter. Neither replaces the other. One more thing, thought records work best when you're not in peak crisis. If you're in full panic mode, your prefrontal cortex is offline and this tool won't land the way it should. Learn it on medium anxiety days so it becomes second nature, so that when the big waves come, your hands already know what to do. The biggest shift this tool creates isn't the individual thought changes, it's the meta-awareness. After a few weeks of using thought records, you start noticing automatic thoughts as they happen in real time, catching them mid-sentence, and your brain starts asking, wait, is this actually true, all on its own? That's the real goal. That's freedom. 3 things to remember. Your anxious thoughts are guesses, not facts, and they deserve to be questioned. Evidence columns only count real observable facts, not feelings dressed up as facts. And writing this down physically is not optional if you want the real neurological benefit this tool is capable of delivering. What's one automatic thought that keeps coming back for you, the one your brain plays on repeat? Drop it in the comments below, and let's talk about what the evidence against it might actually look like. The first thing to understand about how to use a thought record for CBT is that the surface explanation is usually too simple. The real leverage is in the small repeatable behavior underneath it, because that is what survives after motivation drops.